Okay, I started.
Okay. Om Yo Brahmanam Vidadhati Purvam Yo Vai Vedamscha Prahinoti Tasmai Tam Hadevam Atmabuddhi Prakasham Mumukshurvai Sharanamaham Prapadye Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti 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 Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwarah, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha, Gurave Sarvalokanam, Bhishaje Bhavaroginam, Nidhaye Sarvavidyanam, Sri Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Okay. So, last week we closed with a question from someone here, and before that I was just about concluding the elaboration of the sadhana chatushtaya sampatti qualities. I had covered viveka vairagya, and I had covered the shamadhi shatka sampatti, and mumukshutvam was pending. So I could not cover mumukshutvam last week, and then this question also came up. Is that person there? The person who asked the question, was that Deepa by any chance? Who asked the question?
No, sir, it was me, Yashaswini.
Ah, okay, great. So let me first complete the mumukshutvam, and then we will go on to your question. Okay. So what is mumukshutvam? Mumukshutvam means interest in attaining moksha. Moktum ichha mumuksha. That's the definition of mumuksha. So moksham is liberation. So what is liberation? Liberation is getting free from this unending cycle of birth and death. So it is actually not unending in the sense it can be ended, but the trick or the secret of ending the birth and rebirth cycle is what all the Vedantic discourse is all about. So most people don't even have an idea about moksha. Okay, so and in today's world, people don't even believe in rebirth. That's another problem. Yeah. So most people, just dismiss the very idea of rebirth, whereas our shastras are very clear that a person is born again and again and again, not necessarily in human form. You know, someone who is a human being today in this janma, after death, can become any other creature. He can also become a deva. So we talk about 14 lokas. So this bhumi or the bhuloka that we live in is somewhere in the middle. There are 7 lower lokas and 6 higher lokas. So it's just it's an indicative number. It's not exactly 14 finite lokas. There are infinite number of lokas, but 14 categories of lokas, you can say. And even in this bhuloka, one could be born as an animal or a plant or an insect or bacteria. So there are infinite number of possible species into which one can be born. So one birth is followed by the other, one shariram is followed by the other shariram, not necessarily a manusha shariram, not necessarily a human birth, and this can go on and on. The only way you can get out of this is, according to the Upanishads, is to attain self-knowledge and realize the true self. There is an Upanishad called Shvetashvatara Upanishad, and there is a mantra. I'm not quoting the mantra, I'm just giving you the translated meaning of the mantra. If you can roll the sky, the akasha, like you would roll a carpet or a mat, then you can attain moksha without knowledge. without the self-knowledge. Okay, that means what? You cannot roll the sky like a mat or a carpet. That means you cannot attain moksha without attaining self-knowledge. Yatha yada yada charmavad akasham vehtayishanti manavaha tada devam avijnaya dukkhasyanto bhavishyati. That's a mantra. So charmavat akasham vehtayishanti means charma is skin. So I think in those days carpets were mostly deer skin or tiger skin or whatever. So you roll the tiger skin or the deer skin, that's your carpet. Veshtayishanti means to roll. Akasham. Yada charmavad akasham veshtayishanti manavaha. Tada devam avijnaya, without knowing God. Okay, here the mantra does not really say Atmajnanam, but devam vijnaya means to know God, that is to know your true self, that is Brahman. So that is the meaning. So no, most people don't even accept rebirth, and those who accept rebirth, they only think of going to Swargam, some kind of a heaven where you can, enjoy pleasures and all kinds of good things forever. But in our Shastram, the heaven that you go to is not permanent, it's not eternal. You will go to the heaven, spend some time there, and go on to next Janma. So it is like getting a limited visa. You go on a visitor visa, you get a 3 months visa, 6 months visa, whatever, and you, once your punyam is over, you move on from Swargam to the next Janma. You may be lucky to come down to the Bhulokam as a human being, or you may go to some other lower loka also, or you may come to this loka itself as a animal, plant, whatever. So it is a very indefinite thing, and the way to get out of this is moksha. Okay, so once you have reached moksha, or once you have attained moksha, you are no longer born. The janma where you get your moksham will be your last janma. And so mumukshutvam is a quality which a person develops, wherein his highest priority in life is to get moksha. That is mumukshutvam. So that's a quality that one develops over time or over several janmas. Okay, and so developing that quality is a very essential requirement for coming to Vedanta. Okay, so all these sadhana chatushtaya qualities that I talked about, in the tradition, they are all supposed to be qualities to develop before you even come to Vedanta. But here we are doing the okay, somebody is unmuted. I am hearing echo. Yeah. Kishori ji, can you mute?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, you're logged in as 2 IDs. So in one you are muted, in the other you are unmuted. So you may have to unmute yourself. Yeah, I mean mute yourself. So this mumukshutvam is a quality wherein the person treats the attainment of moksha as the highest priority for himself. And we generally say that mumukshutvam, for that to become the highest priority, it takes time. So normally we have some 300, 400 or 500 things that we want to achieve in life. And the first step is to put this moksham or liberation somewhere in that list. It can even be the bottommost, entry in that list. Let's say you have 500, 500 different priorities in life. It can be the 500th priority or the 501st priority. But the moment mumukshutvam or moksham becomes one of your priorities in that list, what happens is this moksham gradually ascends over the other items in the list, and slowly, it becomes the 400th item, the 300th item, and so on until it becomes your top 10, top 5, top 2, and finally the top priority. So gradually moksham moves up the list. Okay, that is the beauty of this moksham being a part of your list of priorities. Generally what happens is when we start something, we probably have 10 things that we want to achieve. But the moment you have achieved 2 or 3 things in the 10, your list increases. you suddenly see that instead of 10 items that you originally started with, you now have 50 or 100 items that you want to achieve. So the list keeps extending. But the moment moksham becomes one of your priorities, you will also see that the list is becoming shorter. Yeah. So that is the beauty of having moksham as one of your priorities. Okay. So that is mumukshutvam. Briefly, we can talk a lot about moksham, but I would like to kind of bring it to a stop here because we have to move on to other topics. So the point to note is, while we say that all these qualities are essential for, essential prerequisites for coming to Vedanta, you don't have to have 100% level of all these qualities. Even if you have some level of these qualities, you can come to Vedanta, acquire the knowledge, and then continue to develop these qualities further as you continue with your nididhyasana. Okay, so that is the sadhana. Basically all these things I brought under the topic of sadhana. So the sadhana that you can do after becoming a jnani, after going through Shravanam and Mananam, is to practice nididhyasanam. And the way to measure the progress that you make in nididhyasanam is to see how these qualities have increased in your behavior, in your worldview, and in your thought process, and so on. So this is a kind of a thermometer or barometer that you can use to measure whether you are making spiritual progress. Okay, so I would conclude the sadhana chatushtaya topic here, and then we can move on to the question that the moderator had asked. So if I were to remember and rephrase your question, ma'am, what you said is, okay, we develop vairagya, we develop vivekam and all that. Then how can we then continue to work in this world and get fulfillment? That was your question. Is that a correct reproduction of your question, or did I miss out something?
No, sir. It's correct. The work one was an example. Yes, it's yeah. Basically, the question is if one does achieve vairagya or is emotionally detached, then how does one continue to like have a sense of belonging to other people or their work?
Okay. So I'll give you a short answer and I'll give you a slightly long answer. Yeah. So the short answer I'll give you with an example. Okay. Let's say you go to a party. Nowadays we have a lot of people organizing potluck lunch, and people bring different dishes and they all meet at some friend's place, have a get together, then have lunch or dinner, and then sit chit chatting and all that. So normally in these parties, you you have a buffet system. Everybody goes and takes a plate and does self-serving. Let's imagine there is a party where you don't have this buffet self-serving, but you have some kind of a table and people serve. So people sit and eat and others are serving. Okay, let's imagine for the sake of this example and for the sake of discussion, let's say there are 100 people in the party and the table only has a capacity of 10 or 15 or 20. So not everybody can eat at the same time. So you first feed the first 15-20 people, others are serving, and then the next batch comes, and so on and so on. Okay, now let's say somebody has eaten in the first batch, so he has eaten his full, so he doesn't want to eat anything more. Okay, but that person can very well serve the other 80 or 90 who have not eaten. The fact that his tummy is full doesn't stop him from serving food to the others. Okay, does it make sense to you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so even though I might have eaten my full, even if somebody offers me a small burfi or something, I'd say no, I don't have place in my tummy, I'm full, I'm happy. So you are very satisfied and complete, you are fulfilled, but you still can serve food to others. Okay, so this, see, vairagyam alone is not enough. What I was saying is, this vairagyam is a stepping stone to realize your true nature. And what is your true nature? Your true nature is you are the pure consciousness which is infinite, which is what we call Brahman. That is your real true nature, and you have realized it. That means you as an individual are complete in all respects. You have no wants. Okay, you have no wants. So when I say you have no wants, it doesn't mean that you will not feel hungry or thirsty, or you will not feel tired. You will still eat, you will still drink water, you will still have other human activities. You will still feel tired at the end of the day. You will still go to sleep. You will have all those limitations physically. But if you actually look at all the activities that everybody in this world is doing, only 5% or 10% of what they do is meant to fulfill their physical requirements. All of us are working for fulfilling a lot of other requirements like security. You want to enjoy a certain standard of living. Okay, you want to live in a bigger house, a bigger bungalow, in a bigger estate. You want to drive a bigger car. You want to have a bigger bank balance. All these are not really related to your today's hunger, or this evening's dinner, or your your warmth or coldness in this minute. They are not physical needs. However big you may have a car, when the temperature outside is 40, you'll still feel sweaty and hot. Okay, so the amount of work that everybody is doing is to, shall we say, meet their emotional needs and intellectual needs and security needs and so on. Okay, and the fact that you have now realized your true nature is Brahman will greatly reduce all those insecurities and the need for this achievement or that achievement, because you will, once you're convinced, once your Shravana and Mananam is complete, you will realize that all these are something that will come and go. Okay, so with that fulfillment, you can still find motivation to help the rest of the world. Okay, so you will still be engaged in serving the world, but it will not be for your fulfillment. That's the difference. Very often people work for their own fulfillment, but there's irony in it. We say, I'll bring a mathematical concept here. We say that finite plus finite is still finite. Let's say somebody is working to get €1 million or $1 million property or say, net worth. The moment this person becomes a €1 million worth person, he's not happy. He's looking around and he says somebody else is having a €10 million worth. So he wants to achieve the next 10 million. And once he achieves the next 10 million, he's still not happy. He wants to become a 100 million person. It's a never-ending process. And let's say the richest person in the world, today I think it's Bill Gates or Elon Musk or somebody, okay, or the owner of that, Warren Buffett. They are probably among the richest people. But even if you talk to Bill Gates or Elon Musk or Warren Buffett, you will still see that they are working to get more wealth. Even though they are the top 3 or 5 richest people in the world, they're still not happy. What that shows is, any amount of wealth that you get will still be finite wealth, and you would want to have more. Whereas this knowledge that I am really speaking the infinite Brahman, it tells you that everything in this world is actually sitting in you. This everything in this world is sitting in you is something that you have to think about and own up. It's not very obvious, because as long as you identify yourself with this limited body, this 60, 70, 80 kg body, which is 5 feet 8 inches or 6 feet 2 inches or whatever, as long as you identify yourself with that entity, this physical body, you will not appreciate this concept of this whole world resting in you. You can appreciate it only when you accept that this body is not me, this intellect is not me, this mind is not me. I am really speaking a witness of all these things, and that witness being the Brahman consciousness. When you look from that perspective, all material achievements are still finite, whereas you are infinite. And if you remember the concept of, Paramarthika Satyam and Vyavaharika Satyam, Paramarthika Satyam being absolute truth and Vyavaharika Satyam being transactional truth, you are the Paramarthika Satyam, you are the absolute truth, whereas the material achievement that you are going after is just a finite transactional, reality that will come and go. It is subject to space and time, whereas you transcend space and time. You as consciousness, you as Brahman, you are beyond space and time, and with that reality, with that realization, you will still be able to use this body and use the energy of this body to help others, and that need not give you fulfillment because you are already fulfilled. It is like serving food to others after you have eaten your full. Do you get the parallel? Do you get the example and the original?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. Any other thoughts, comments from others? Any comments, discussions, or doubts? Okay. Oh, nobody seems to have any questions. So I think in this context, I would like to talk a little bit about Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga. Yeah, because these are all things that we should have talked about before we talked about Vedanta. But we are going in the reverse direction in this particular interaction. I straight away took you all to Jnana Yoga and talked about the Vedantic final teaching, Aham Brahmasmi and all that. Now I am backtracking and going to the fundamentals. It's like sitting in the LKG class after you have got your PhD degree. Okay, it's a little like that, but I think I should cover some of the concepts which are helpful in day-to-day life. Okay, so in the tradition, what we say is that karma, when you perform karma or normal action with an expectation of the result, it is called karma. It is called just karma. Whereas if you perform your actions or activities without an emotional attachment to the outcome, that is called karma yoga. So there is a difference between karma and karma yoga. Okay, and in the Bhagavad Gita, there is a full chapter dedicated to karma yoga. And in addition to that chapter, that's the third chapter. The third chapter is called Karma Yoga. In addition to the third chapter, this idea about Karma Yoga is found in many other chapters, distributed across the entire Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so in a nutshell, Karma Yoga means you perform your duty as though it is a puja that you do to Ishvara. There are basically two aspects or two dimensions to performing any action. So there is a role of a performer. So when you are doing the action, when you are doing the activity, you are the performer. And then after the action is performed, the results come. And at that time, you are a receiver or an enjoyer or an experiencer of the result. So there is an attitude that one has to have at the time of performing the action, and there is an attitude that one should carry when the result of the action is coming to you. Okay, so the attitude to have when you are performing the action is to perform the activity, whatever you are doing. Let's say you're going to an office and working, and your office work has a lot of duties and activities. You perform all of those activities as though you are performing a puja for your Ishtadevata. That means you are completely focused on what needs to be done, how it should be done. Every office, every organization has a standard operating procedure for so many things. Let's say you are in the sales role. How do you go and talk to a customer? How do you fix an appointment? How do you do your sales pitch? Or if you are in a purchase function, how do you identify a vendor for a particular item that you're buying? How do you negotiate a particular contract? How do you ensure that the contractual terms are in your favor? All those things are part of the purchase function. So every function in any organization has its specific requirements and standard operating procedures, and you follow all those standards or instructions meticulously, and you perform those activities without negligence, and with complete due diligence, as though you are performing a puja. That is the performing part. So when you perform, you do it like a puja with complete dedication and concentration and focus and everything. Then you have finished your activity. There is nothing more to do. You only have to wait for the outcome. In some cases, the outcome is immediate. In some cases, the outcome comes after a couple of days or a couple of weeks or a couple of months. Yeah, it all depends on what kind of activity you have performed. So not every activity brings its result immediately. Some activities take time. There is a gestation period between the action and the result, outcome. And when the outcome eventually arrives, it may or may not meet your expectation. So that is the important point to keep in mind. When you are performing the action, you do everything very meticulously. In spite of all that you have done correctly, the outcome may still not be as per your expectations. And when the outcome comes, you accept the outcome as a Ishvara Prasada. That is the attitude to have when the result comes. So as a karta or a performer, you have a certain attitude. As a bhokta, as someone who is receiving the karma phalam, you have the prasada buddhi. We call that prasada buddhi. So you accept the result as though it were Ishvara Prasada. When you go to a temple, I'm not sure how it works in the other temples, but generally in the south, when you go, the temple, you will generally have some prasada which is given to you. It could be one banana, it could be half a banana, it could be a small ball of cooked rice. Sometimes it could be sweet rice, sometimes it could be lemon rice or tamarind rice or whatever. So it could be a small quantity. Sometimes if you are lucky, you'll get a big quantity. You don't decide what prasadam you get and how much you get. The person distributing the prasadam will decide how much is to be given to you, and you don't negotiate with that person. Can you give me more? You're giving me less and all that. So in the temple, the prasadam comes to your hand, you are supposed to walk off. Okay. And so that is the attitude with which you accept the outcome or the result. So this is karma yoga, and this is how the karma yoga is defined, and this is how it's supposed to be practiced. So coming back to your question about on the fulfillment part, a person who is not yet aware of the fact that my true nature is not my body, mind, or intellect, that person is recommended to perform all his actions as karma yoga. Only when you perform your actions as a karma yoga, you will not depend on the outcome of your action for your fulfillment. You will find your fulfillment through the performance of the action to complete perfection and dedication. That itself will give you the focus. The fulfillment. Whereas a karmi, one who is not performing the karma as karma yoga, He's called a karmi. One who performs karma yoga is called a karma yogi. Whereas a person who is doing karma but not as a karma yogi is called a karmi. And for a karmi, his fulfillment will depend on the outcome of the action. And once you are a karmi, you are never sure of the perfect outcome. So you are never sure of your perfect fulfillment. You will always have some disappointment. You will always have some feeling, it could have been better. It could have been, this way, that way. So that feeling is always there. But the moment you convert your karma into karma yoga, you will stop depending on the outcome of your activities for your fulfillment, and you will start getting fulfillment by merely performing your duties perfectly. And then, of course, this karma yoga is supposed to give you a certain maturity, a certain mental maturity, emotional maturity, even spiritual maturity. In Sanskrit, we call it chitta shuddhi. Chitta shuddhi means it purifies your mind, because you are able to deal with the outcomes without raga and dvesha. And so over a period, you are able to take things with equanimity, and that's supposed to be a preparation for the next stage. After karma yoga, one is supposed to do upasana yoga. In fact, you can do karma yoga and upasana yoga together. There is no need for you to complete karma yoga and then move on to upasana yoga. Basically, karma yoga and upasana yoga, they are supposed to go hand in hand, and eventually these two will bring you to jnana yoga. So the third stage is jnana yoga. Jnana yoga consists of Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. That is something which we covered in the first 6 weeks. So I will now give a short peep into Upasana yoga. So Upasana yoga, most people begin with worship of Ishvara in one or another form. So it is called Ekarupa Upasana. Ekarupa Upasana means you consider one form or the other. It could be Rama, it could be Krishna, it could be Devi, it could be Ganesha, it could be Kartikeya, Subramanya. Shankaracharya, Adi Shankara had established 6 different paths of worship, which is called Shan Matam. So they are basically, Shaivam, Shaktam, Vaishnavam, Ganapatyam, Sauram, and Kaumaram. Okay. So in Ganapatyam, Ganapati or Ganesha is your Ishta Devata. In Shaktam, Devi, all types of Devis. You have Durga, you have Kali, you have Mahalakshmi, you have Saraswati, you have different forms of Devi. So in Shaktam, Devi Upasana is your prime, Ishta Devata. In Vaishnavism, Vaishnavam, Mahavishnu is your Ishta Devata. In Shaivam, Shiva, Mahadeva, he is your Ishta Devata. In Sauram, sun god is worshipped. That is you do Upasana on Surya. That is why it's called Sauram. And Kaumaram is treating Subramanya or Kartikeya as your Ishta Devata. And then there are many other upasanas available today. Like I know a lot of people whose Ishta Devata is Anjaneya, okay, or Narasimha. A lot of other deities are there. So you worship Ishvara in one particular form. That is Eka Rupa Upasana. That is only the beginning stage. Okay. And once you have performed and practiced Eka Rupa Upasana for a length of time, slowly you have to expand and, shall we say, broaden your perspective and start looking at every form that you see around you as a manifestation of Ishvara. And that is called Aneka Rupa Upasana or Vishwa Rupa Upasana. There is a chapter 11 in Bhagavad Gita, which is called Vishwarupa Yoga, Vishwarupa Darshana Yoga. Okay, there Arjuna gets to see Lord Krishna as the Vishwarupa Ishvara. Okay, and a lot of people think that Vishwarupa Ishvara is some special form of Ishvara where he has some 1,000 heads or something. No, that Vishwarupa, the Darshana Yoga, actually, there Bhagavan Lord Krishna enables Arjuna to see this universe, this whole world, as a divine manifestation. So that in that Vishwarupa Upasana stage, the Upasaka or the devotee has broadened his perspective about Ishvara and the world to such an extent that he sees divinity in everything that you see around yourself. And that is how in the Sanatana Dharma, in Hinduism, we treat mountains and rivers and trees and everything as divine. So you treat Ganga as a devata, you treat Kailasa Parvatam as a devata, you treat the Tirtham, you have Mansarovar Lake is considered divine. So everything that you see around you is divine. That is an expression of Vishwarupa Upasana. So everything that you see around you is divine, is a manifestation of Ishvara, and you develop a certain humility and devotion towards this whole universe. That is Vishwarupa Upasana. And there is one step above that, which is Arupa Upasana. So finally, you realize that Ishvara is not limited to one or the other form. He is not even required to present himself in the form of a universe. He is actually formless. The form that you meditate upon is just a medium for you to make your meditation easy, but in real terms we have in the Vedas there are upasanas with akasha upasana. Akasha is the sky, and how do you meditate on the sky? Because the sky cannot be seen. Sky is formless. What you see as the blue sky is really speaking not the sky's color. It's a color that doesn't belong to the sky, but you think the sky is blue. The sky actually has no color, and you are supposed to meditate on that sky which cannot be visualized, which has no form, and that is arupa upasana. And then you have other forms of upasana like Omkara upasana. You have Omkara upasana, you have Prana upasana. Prana doesn't have a form. So our Vedas, our Shastras have infinite number of upasanas depending on the maturity and the capability of the upasaka. You can choose one or the other upasana which suits your level of maturity and frame of mind and so on. And this upasana itself is basically to help you focus your mind and control your mind and channelize it into one particular direction, because the mind by its nature is an extroverted entity. It will always keep going out and keep looking for objects to engage itself with. You will want to see something, all that all that desire to experience the world is basically coming from the mind. Either you want to hear some music, or you want to watch some movie, or you want to eat some particular kind of food, and you want to have this experience or that experience. All those are expressions of the extroverted nature of the mind. The extroverted mind acts through your sense organs and pushes you to look for external objects for gratification. And this upasana is a practice or an exercise to restrain that extrovertedness and bring the mind to stay in one place and focus in one place. Because ultimately, when you come to Jnana Yoga during Shravanam, you need to have a lot of focus and attention to listen to what the Guru is telling you. And if your mind is wandering here and there, you will miss half of the teaching. So it is essential to have a focused mind, and this Upasana Yoga is a step which enables you to avoid extrovertedness and increase your focus and capability to focus. Okay, so Karma Yoga has a role, Upasana Yoga has a role. Karma Yoga basically purifies your mind by reducing your raga and dvesha, and Upasana Yoga improves your focus and ability to restrain the mind from distractions and external engagements. And then once you are ready at some point, after having practiced Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga for some time, a few years, maybe a few janmas, I don't know, it all depends on your samskara from the past janmas, then you are ready for Jnana Yoga, and you get enough punyam to come in contact with a guru who will then take you through the Jnana Yoga path. That is the way the Shastras and our traditions have defined how one makes progress on the spiritual path. Okay, I'll stop here, and I want to know if people have followed whatever I said. If there are any questions, doubts, we can talk about. Okay, so again, silence.
Sir, I
I
have a
don't know.
question.
Yeah.
In the Karma Yoga part, you mentioned that the Karma Yogi is basically not depending on the consequence, right? Like it doesn't matter. You have to accept the consequence of your actions, pretty much, whatever it may be. So, but you also said that you have to do the actions or the karma perfectly. So, what does that mean? What is the definition of perfectness?
See, that perfectness depends on the action that you are doing, the activity. Okay, as I said, I gave you secular examples of somebody working in a sales role or purchase role or whatever role. In every job, you have a certain job description. You are supposed to perform certain actions or activities in a particular manner. That is what I would say perfection. But in the Shastras, we are talking about rituals mentioned in the Vedas. Okay, so I need to now take you through the Shastric definition of karma. Okay, so the Shastric definition of karma is not to go to some organization, get employment, do some work and get salary and come home. That's not the Shastric definition of karma. In the Shastra, karma, lot of karmas have been specified in the Vedas and Shastras as compulsory karmas. Okay, so broadly speaking, I'll now go into a little bit of Shastric definition of karma. So there is something called Nitya Naimittika karma. Nitya Naimittika karma again has two subcategories. Nitya karma is something that you have to do regularly. Nitya doesn't necessarily mean daily, but then depending on your varna and ashrama, you have certain. I can give you an example from a Brahmin's perspective. Doing Sandhya Vandanam, doing Agnihotram, doing Veda part, Veda Adhyayanam. All these are supposed to be Brahmins, Nitya karma. And then there are monthly activities that one has to perform, like Tarpanam and all that. And then if the parents have died, there is a annual Shraddham that you have to perform. So these are all all these come under Nitya karma. So similarly, a Kshatriya may have certain specific karma. So for the Kshatriya, taking care of the people who are under his rule is a karma for him. he has to do it without fear or favor. So he has to dispense justice. So that is a Kshatriya's karma. And similarly, Vaishyas and Shudras, they have their own karmas. Okay, so this is Nitya karma. Then there is a Naimittika karma, which means, let's say there is a marriage ritual. So there is a certain set of karmas one has to do during marriage. And then let's say there is child coming. So there are different karmas associated with pregnancy and childbirth. Okay, and then you have when if the child is a boy, then you have Upanayanam at the age of 7 or 9 or whatever. Okay, and then if there is a death in the family, then the last rites for that person is a Naimittika karma. It's a nimittam. When somebody is dying, that's a nimittam. And then you have another set of karma called Kamya karma. So Kamya karma means you want to accomplish or achieve something, and for that there is a karma specified in the Vedas. So let's say we know from Ramayana that Dasharatha performed a Putra Kameshti. Yeah, Putra Kameshti Yaga is a Kamya karma. He was childless, he wanted a male child, and for that he performed a Putra Kameshti. Okay, in Mahabharata, Yudhishthira performed Rajasuya Yaga. So Rajasuya Yaga doesn't come under Nitya Naimittika karma. They don't do it every day. But when the king develops a desire for performing this Rajasuya Yaga or Ashwamedha Yaga or whatever, they perform this out of desire. Okay, those are all Kamya karma. So Kamya karma is something that is optional. You perform that karma if you develop that desire. That is the second category of karma. Then the third category of karma is called Prayaschitta karma. Prayaschitta karma means, let's say normally in today's world, what you see is somebody goes to the astrologer with their horoscope, and then the astrologer says, your guru is not good, or your Shani is very maleficent, or you have Rahu problem, you have Ketu problem, you have Mangal problem, all those things. So you go to this temple, that temple, all those are Prayaschitta karmas. Okay, so Prayaschitta karma is a karma that one would do in order to reduce the effect of some kind of a papam that is, chasing you. That is Prayaschitta karma. And then finally there is a Nishiddha karma. Nishiddha karma is prohibited actions. You are not supposed to do certain things. So for instance, alcohol, consumption of alcohol is considered a Nishiddha karma. You are not supposed to consume alcohol. Okay, and murdering somebody, cheating somebody, these are all Nishiddha karma. So while the Kamya karma, Nitya Naimittika karma, and the Prayaschitta karma are things that you do in a positive way, Nishiddha karma is a set of activities that you're supposed to avoid. Okay, you don't go and perform a Nishiddha karma, you avoid doing a Nishiddha karma. Broadly speaking, these are the 4 categories of karmas. Okay, now this may look very abstract and you may wonder what is Nitya karma, what is Naimittika karma. I don't have an idea. So in today's world, we simplify this at a secular level, and we talk about Pancha Mahayajna. Pancha Mahayajna. So we talk about 5 types of debt. DEBT, debt. So in Sanskrit, the word is Rinam, Rina. So we talk about Deva Rinam, Rishi Rinam, Pitru Rinam, Manushya Rinam or Manava Rinam, and Bhuta Rinam. So we talk about 5 kinds of debt that, the moment a person is born in this world, he inherits or acquires these 5 debts automatically, and he has to work to pay off this debt. So what is Devaranam? Devaranam is the debt that you owe to the Devas, which you pay off by performing daily puja. So some kind of puja on a daily basis is meant to ward off the Devaranam. And then Rishi Rinam or Brahma Rinam is the debt that you owe, or we all owe, to the rishis who gave us the shastras. So how do you repay the rishi rinam? It is by learning the shastras and um, studying the shastras on a regular basis. So for instance, if you learn Bhagavad Gita, or if you learn this Upanishad or that Upanishad, or even reading Ramayana, Mahabharata, or Devi Bhagavatam, or Bhagavata Puranam, or whatever. So reading all these Vedic literature, Shastric literature on a regular basis is to repay the Rishi Rinam. Okay, and in the southern, at least in our community, we have what is called the Upakarma once in a year. That Upakarma is basically to express our gratitude to the rishis who gave us the Vedas. And there is also the time when the Veda study is resumed after a break. So there are a lot of rituals associated with Rishi Rinam or Brahma Rinam. There are some people who perform what is called a Brahma Yajna on a daily basis. So there's a short ritual which takes about 5 to 10 minutes, and you can perform that ritual every day. And all that you need for that is a little bit of water and some rice, or I don't know exactly what is required, but you probably use some rice and till and some water, and it's a few mantras, a short few mantras, 5 minutes, 10 minutes you can do. And there are people who do this Brahma Yajnam on a daily basis. So these are all activities you do for Rishi Rinam, or it's also called Brahma Rinam. Then Pitri Rinam is the debt that one owes to one's parents and forefathers. So this human birth that we have taken, it is not possible without the blessings of our parents, and their birth is not possible with the blessings of their parents. So we have a cumulative debt going back to several generations, not only to our parents but also to all our forefathers. And that the Pitri Rinam is paid off by performing the Tarpanam and Shraddham and all that. Okay, so there are specific rituals to repay that debt. And the fourth Rinam is the Manava Rinam or Manushya Rinam, where you are supposed to use your body and energy and money and other resources to help other human beings. Other human beings, not just members of your own family or members of your extended family, but to the society in general. And it is exactly addressing this Manava Rinam that if you go back into our history in India, you had a lot of rich people who donated land for various causes. There used to be choultries or chatram, which people will construct along the way. Those days people would walk. I'm talking about a time 300, 500, 700 years back when there were no trains. You had to walk or go by a bullock cart or a horse cart or whatever, and at a distance of 300, 400 kilometers, you may travel over 3 or 4 days. If you are going by foot, it may even take 10 days. Okay, and so every day you have to stay at some place and spend the night, and then move on in the next morning. So for such travelers to rest and eat food and all that, they had choultries or chatrams, and those were actually run more or less free. Okay, and then there were rich people who helped in the construction of free medical facilities or free schools, or donating to brahmanas, or digging wells, or planting trees. All these are considered Manava Yajna, helping your fellow human beings in some form or the other. You can keep talking about Manava Yajna on and on and on. There is endless list of activities that one can do. Basically, in one sentence, helping your fellow human beings in any form, not necessarily with your money. It could also be with your time. Let's say you're traveling in a train or a bus, and somebody is standing. You see it's a very old person. Even giving your seat to that person could be a form of Manava Yajna. Okay, So it's as simple as that. And finally, Bhuta Yajna. So Bhuta Yajna is again like Manava Yajna. It's taking care of the plants and animals and your environment. Okay, so this is Manava Yajna and Bhuta Yajna. So if you perform these 5 yajnas called Panchamaha Yajnas, then you are essentially practicing Karma Yoga. And depending on what you are doing, you do that action, that activity with complete dedication, focus and perfection. Not with, you don't do these any of these activities with an arrogant attitude or with an attitude of a superiority complex. No, that is not Karma Yoga. You do it as a service, and that becomes Karma Yoga. Okay, so probably this was a very long answer, but I hope I answered your question. If I have still not answered, you can have a follow-up question.
No, sir, I appreciate it. Yes, it answered my question.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay. So, anybody else? Anyone else?
Thank you very much for your time, really.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Okay, so one point that I want to make here. See, whether we have another session or more sessions, or we treat today's session as a final session, will all depend on the response that I get from you people in the form of questions. If nobody has any questions, then I will struggle to decide on what to talk about in the next session. Yeah. So that's the reason I keep stopping and asking if anybody has a question, because that will give me a trigger to then decide whether to go on to another topic, which may answer that particular question. Okay. So since there is such a deep silence after this, yeah, Shvetambari ji, please.
Sir, sometimes it's so heavy, the topic to understand it. And I have questions, but I feel as if those questions are really stupid and I should
No,
not
no, no, no.
ask.
There is no stupid question. See, that's the problem, right? So we all
Hmm.
want to have that one perfect question which will be applauded and appreciated by everybody. That's not necessary. See, any question which comes to your mind can be aired and it can be addressed, because the subject is so vast and so complex that one cannot have all the answers, and even I may not know everything. Suppose you ask me some question, and if I don't know the answer, I'll say sorry, I'll find out and come back to you. I can't give you an answer right away. Yeah. So
Okay.
don't feel hesitant thinking,
Mhm.
don't qualify your question at your own level and say, oh, this is a stupid question. No, that's not how it
Okay.
works.
Okay. Okay. But I had a very basic question earlier. I had a very, very basic question.
Yeah.
When you said that we have to detach ourselves
Mm,
from our karmas, okay, what we do or what we have to perform every day,
mm,
we should be able to detach ourselves from the results or the
mm.
outcomes.
Yeah.
Okay, that is one thing. Then you said we are we are we are not mind, we are not this body,
Mm,
we are Brahman, we are the
mm,
absolute truth,
mm,
right?
mm,
But then I have a problem to actually understand how do I um see the bad people in this, when I think I'm not this kind of, I'm not this body, I'm not the soul, okay,
mm,
but if somebody hurts me or if somebody is trying to really torture me, then how do I see such people, such evil people? I see bad people all around.
mm.
How do you how should I assess them? They are not good. I know they are doing something bad.
Yeah.
How do you understand them then?
Okay. So the questions of this type come because we take an element of paramarthikam, we take some element of vyavaharikam, and then we end up mixing up. Okay. So that you are Brahman is at a Paramarthikam level. Okay. And at that Paramarthikam level, there is no second entity at all. Okay. So what that means is, my true nature, your true nature, and the true nature of everybody else here in this call, it's all one and the same. Okay. So ideally, when you are talking about Brahman or Chaitanyam, there is really no world at all. But the moment you come down to somebody torturing you, that somebody torturing you, not one Brahman torturing the other. That is at a Vyavaharika level. That is one body mind complex torturing another body mind complex. So at that time, when that question comes, that this other fact that we are all Brahman loses its relevance. Okay.
Yes.
So we are then dealing with Dharma Shastra. At the Dharma Shastra level, how you respond to a situation, how you react either emotionally or physically, is governed by a set of rules. And depending on the situation, you can apply one or more of those rules. So, for instance, when somebody tortures you or when somebody physically harms you, you have a right to defend your body. So, you're not supposed to, bend and take everything that comes to you in the form of torture. That the dharma at that point is to stand up and fight. That is the dharma. So in all these transactional situations, you immediately come to the dharma, dharmic level. What is the dharma for that situation? How do I do it? Okay, so the law of the land will require you to first defend yourself at a primary level, not retaliate. You're not supposed to retaliate, unlike in the US where everybody has a gun and they end up shooting each other. In a normal country, you're not supposed to retaliate. You're supposed to go to the authorities and complain and do all that. Okay, that is the rule. But you do see people retaliating. That's a different story. Yeah. So then both get into trouble, or the stronger of the one wins. But that's not dharma. Okay, so I'm talking about dharma. I'm talking about the ideal copybook, situation, how to handle it. Okay, most of us don't get tortured. Okay, but we all face different forms of abuse or some kind of an insult, slighting, and all that. So when there is no physical harm to you, you probably have more options. You can reduce your dealings with that person. You can try to minimize your interactions. You can move away from that person, and you can stop carrying that guilt or pain or whatever beyond a point. You can feel sorry for yourself for a short time, maybe even for a day, but don't carry that burden beyond a point, because you can say, okay, that was this person's nature. If a dog barks at you, you don't really blame the dog, right? So you keep a good distance so that the dog doesn't bite you. But as long as the dog is just barking, you don't take offense. It's something like that. Okay, so you can deal with insults and those kind of verbal provocations in a mature way. Okay, and you can try to reduce your interaction or dealings with that person. But if that person happens to be a colleague that you have to deal with on a daily basis, then you probably have to go through some escalation route and complain to your HR or somebody and see what happens. Yeah, this is just an example. So depending on the situation, you need to take action. In the Bhagavad Gita, finally Lord Krishna tells Arjuna that, hey Arjuna, don't talk to me about Vedanta here. This is a battlefield. You are here to kill your enemies. So in this battlefield, your dharma is to kill. So don't talk about ethics in this battlefield. That is the teaching Krishna gives in Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so even though we say ahimsa paramo dharma, okay, there is this ahimsa paramo dharma is a half-baked statement. The full statement is ahimsa paramo dharma, himsa dharmo tathaivacha, or dharmo himsa tathaivacha. There are situations where himsa is the dharma, and in those situations, if you talk about ahimsa, you will get killed. Okay, so depending on the situation, you have to choose to use violence at the level, appropriate level. That is important.
Okay. Okay, I got my answer. Then I had another question, but I think that should be for the next time because it's
Great,
too late.
wonderful. So if you can tell me the question, I'll kind of try to, gather my thoughts and come up with some kind of an answer that we can elaborate in the next session. Just tell me the question so that I know what's coming up.
Okay, then it has to do with the karma yoga. When you said that we have to perform our duties and then get away from the results, I
Mhm.
was thinking of a very concrete example that
Mhm.
I as a housewife, as a mother, I have some duties towards my children,
Mhm.
and then how should I look that as just getting away from or getting detached from the outcomes, because outcomes are what is very important.
Mm.
And then how can I be a karma yogi without without getting involved in the emotional side or the karma side of my being as a mother and the
Okay,
duties that I have towards my children, as
great.
they that they should be a good citizen in the future or something like that, because we always as parents, we always think that our children should bring something good to the society, and that's
Yeah.
how we strive on that path, and
Correct.
that's also karma. Then how do I understand getting
Okay.
detached from the outcome?
So finally, the answer to this will become a parenting workshop. So I'll try my best to do justice to your question, but we'll keep the
Yeah,
discussion for next week.
yes, this is only just an example.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
could just thought of a concrete example. That's why I gave this
Sure,
example. But
sure.
karma yoga related to everyday where outcome is very necessary.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So we'll take up this question for next week. Yeah, and like I said, I request everyone to come up with questions which they may think it's stupid or whatever, but no question is stupid, no question is silly, and please come up with these questions so that we have this once in a week session which helps us to cover all these topics. Yeah, Shubhuji, please.
Yeah, hello. Thank you very much. It's I wasn't there the last time, and that's why I'm very sorry to have missed some part of it, but I will read up on it again and listen to it. I find it very difficult to differentiate between during karma yoga, differentiate between retaliation as is propagated to Arjun from Krishna and acceptance of what negative actions or what actions doesn't always have to be negative actions are happening to me because of a higher cause to make me learn from it, destiny for a higher reason. How do I differentiate subtly between the reason why something is happening to me and my answer to that? Should I retaliate always on a lower um, um, physical mental level, or should I always go over go over this action and learn the acceptance, which sounds passive, but it is basically accepting what happens to me because of a higher cause or because of a different reason, because of a spiritual reason.
Okay, so actually your question is several questions combined into one. Okay.
Sorry about that.
Yeah,
You
so
wanted questions.
I would request you to take some 10 minutes time, write it down in various points so that when we convene for the next week session, you are able to repeat whatever you said without losing the essential points. So I want you to capture the thoughts that you had expressed just now in a piece of paper and keep it handy so that when we resume this discussion next week, you have a complete recollection of whatever you said just now. Yeah, let's take up this question. It's a very interesting question, but as I said, it's multiple questions combined into one, so the answers will have to be sorted out differently for different aspects of the question. Okay.
Okay, I will try my best because it is very confusing and I would like a little bit of clarity in that. So I
Sure.
do think I'm jumbling up a lot of things together, but
Sure.
I'll try.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. And same request to you also, Shwetambriji. Even though the question that you gave is a fairly simple, example, it would be helpful if you can repeat at the beginning of next week, so that we all have a fresh, fresh set of thoughts regarding the question.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Right.
sir. Thank you.
So we'll close for today, and we will chant the closing prayers so that we can formally close the class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Sarvesham Swastirbhavatu Sarvesham Shantirbhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Sarvepi Sukhinas Santu Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, thank you. We'll meet next week. Namaste. Bye bye.